So the transfer portal latest. We got one name that continues to be a familiar thread here that we'll mention in the end. But how about B.J. Foster? B.J. Foster's out at Texas. Well, at least he's in the portal. And Adamora is also there, a couple of defensive back players. Foster's been a solid 4-year player at Texas. He was a former 5-star guy, and that's why it catches your eye, because you see all 5 of those stars, because you're using the former rating. He goes in the portal. He's been a solid guy there. He's, to me, been a guy who I've always watched, and I've been waiting for it to click. I've been waiting for him to go from a solid, dependable player to a true star player. And it, for a variety of reasons, never really panned out that way. At least it hasn't yet. Not a bad player. Very good player. But a guy who knows, goes somewhere else, gets in the right secondary with the right coach, and maybe they pull a little bit extra, that final 15% out of him. Adamora, old staff just flat out liked him a lot more than the new staff did. And so those are 2 guys that are departures. Now, we've expected this. We didn't know who it was going to be, but we've expected a lot of guys to hit the exit door. Steve Sarkisian told you as much at a press availability about a month or so ago. Here's why they're not really talking about this all that much in Austin. It's because of who could be coming in the door. And I'm not even talking about Ewers. We'll get to Ewers in a few minutes. But Kelvin Banks, who we talked about on this show when he committed to Oregon a couple of months ago, well, he's back in the fold. 5-star offensive tackle, back in the fold at Texas. May not be the last big one they have from this weekend. And so, yeah, they got some guys hitting the exit door, but they've also got their guys, emphasis on their guys, coming in the front door. So no one's really shedding a whole lot of tears in Austin, Texas right now. Joe is a receiver from Clemson. He has also entered the transfer portal. Frank Ladson's in there. Joe is in there. This is a guy who probably has not grown into his game. I think even the Clemson staff would tell you this. Really impressive physical specimen. He looked like about a half a dozen other receivers Clemson had this year. They had just the same body type, 6'3", 220, every single one of them, exact same size. So they didn't have a lot of versatility and variety in that receiver room, but that's exactly the point a lot of Clemson folks are making is, number one, he never really maximized his potential here. You would have some folks around the program tell you that may not be as much on Clemson development as it is on maybe the player fully buying into the development. I've never coached him, so I'm just telling you what people say. But other than that, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I know there's a lot negative that's being said about Clemson right now, but a guy like a Joe hitting the exit door via the portal, you need less of that. If it means you get more 5'11", 175, can hit the seam and split safeties and get behind the secondary, that's what they need more of. That's what they didn't have at all this year, and it showed. Like, they finally played some better football down the stretch, but it took a long time because there was no threat of Clemson beating you over the top. So less of his body type. If it means a little bit more what you've seen Ohio State and Alabama play with, that's all the better for me. We're going to talk about Clemson later. Austin Stogner from Oklahoma. He was, I think, a second-team All-American tight end back in 2019. He entered the portal about 2 weeks ago. He entered in late November. He's still in there. He's taken a visit to South Carolina. He's taken a visit to Iowa State. Well, he was on campus, may still be, in Columbus at Ohio State this weekend. And anytime Ohio State's involved and they really want you, it's hard to turn them down and it's hard to beat them. So let's see where this goes. It's expected by the latest reporting I've seen around our entire network that we could have a decision coming sometime in the next week to 2 weeks. I know that's vague, but then again, if that's the information you have to go on, it's the information you have to go on. 6'6", 256, tight end, as I said, and has 2 years to play. This is the kind of player, I think, that if he lands at a place like Ohio State, let's just for argument's sake, say he lands at Ohio State, this is the kind of guy that midway through the season is making differences in games. It's the kind of guy who's making the kind of plays you're seeing right now in the B-roll, and he's filling a role that maybe Ohio State didn't have. There aren't many Austin Stogners out there, and so it's just a guy who probably didn't like the fit with the new staff coming in at Oklahoma, wanted to try and have his hand elsewhere. A lot of these big programs recruited him the first time around. Stogner, if he lands at Ohio State, it's going to be a big deal. If he lands anywhere, it's going to be a big deal. But if he lands at Ohio State, that's just a little bit different kind of weapon than you've had there. Pete Thamel is reporting that, Jesse is reporting, Pete Thamel is reporting, and I want you to quote it that way, that Quinn Ewers will indeed transfer to Texas. We were just talking about it 20 minutes ago. This is big. I mean, my initial reaction is this is a huge day for Steve Sarkisian. You never know 5 years from now, if Sark is still there, you never know how important this day could have been, and this acquisition, let's just call it what it is, could have been to being the first big domino that got knocked down, because Quinn Ewers is not coming to Texas alone. Quinn Ewers is coming to Texas, and then there will be a windfall of other offensive talent that wants to play with him. Quinn Ewers is very much a keystone kind of recruit, and that his decision has a ripple effect throughout the rest of the recruiting pond and the transfer portal pond. And now there's always hesitance because, something could pop up 11th hour, but as of right now, pretty much everyone in the know here thinks if he pulls the trigger tonight or tomorrow, probably going to be Texas. Think about what could be happening in Austin if that goes down, by the way. You could end up with Quinn Ewers, which I'm going to say it because they won't, makes him your starting quarterback this upcoming season. And then you've also got flips happening in recruiting, and they may not be done in the portal, by the way. In fact, I can tell you confidently, I don't think they're going to be done in the portal. They are remaking a team. That's what they're doing. Texas and Steve Sarkisian are just flat out remaking the team. Now, you can't totally do it in one season, but it also doesn't take 4 seasons anymore either. This is something to watch.